The 2022 Hard Rocker football season is fast approaching. Feel the excitement of Game Day Saturday in Rapid City with fellow Hard Rocker friends and alumni this fall. Be there for every home game when you purchase football season tickets that begin at just $75. And remember that South Dakota Mines football features the region's premier tailgating fan experience that happens inside the stadium, with season tickets still available for ramps A, B, and C spaces. Hi, this is Tom Rudebush, the voice of the Hard Rockers. Head coach Charlie Floor and the Hard Rockers are coming off a breakthrough winning season and are seeking to contend in the rugged Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference with a home schedule featuring top rivals Black Hills State and Chadron State. Get your Hard Rocker season tickets today at GoRockers.com or call the Hard Rocker ticket office at 605-394-2351. Season tickets are on sale right now for the 2022 season. It's a great day to be a Hard Rocker.
3, 2, 1. From Rapid City, South Dakota, and the Hard Rocker Podcast Network. Focusing on stories on and off the playing surface. This is the Hard Rocker Huddle.
Welcome to the Hard Rocker Huddle. My name is Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert. Episode 30 today, and our guest today is Austin Stevens, Oline coach here at the South Dakota School of Mines. Just getting started, what's kind of been what's been going on this summer? What have you been up to? Obviously, you're starting to get busy now, but have you been able to kind of take some time to yourself and relax a little bit?
Yeah, I've been busy. Obviously, kind of the month of June has been heavily involved with going to camps and getting out of camps and seeing kids, and then July kind of slows down for us a little bit, so I've been able to I've been to a couple family functions, and then my wife and I have been getting ready for this baby that's coming in October, so just kind of doing things around the house to get ready for that, and so it's been a busy summer for me, just getting ready for those things and spending as much time with my wife and my dog before we enter parenthood, so which we're very excited about, and that's kind of what we've been up to this summer. Yeah,
congratulations on that. I can't even imagine how busy it's going to be to be a
absolutely.
Football coach with a new baby.
Right in the middle of season, they always say us coaches, trying to plan a family, and here it is, middle of October is the due date, and right in the heart of the football season. So great job out of us, I know.
Well, just getting into it, you grew up right outside of Des Moines. What was it kind of like growing up there? What was your family life like?
Yeah, I guess, for me, I've kind of, I call West Des Moines home, but really I've spent time in Kearney, Nebraska, and then I spent a good chunk of kind of my early life and up until my sophomore year. After my sophomore year, I moved to West Des Moines and finished up in West Des Moines. So I've kind of moved a little bit. My brother, I got two older brothers. One is in Pennsylvania still, while the other one is currently in Lincoln, Nebraska. And then my mom still lives in West Des Moines, and my dad lives in Lincoln. So I've kind of got family a little bit all over the place, and so it makes it, fun at times because you're able to travel and see them. And for me, that's kind of, we're a big family-oriented family. And so growing up, I spent a lot of time on the baseball field. So I wasn't able to get back to Nebraska, where most of our family is now currently, because I was playing so much baseball at the time. And so we spent a lot more time out on the East Coast. I traveled up and down the East Coast playing competitive baseball since I can really 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And so for me, being back in the Midwest, I've really been able to, kind of catch up with family and spend a lot more time with family, which has been awesome.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously being a big baseball player, obviously a football player. Any other sports you played, you were involved in at an early age?
Yeah, anything that was outside I really did. Or in the wintertime I would play, basketball to kind of stay in shape up until 8th grade. But for me, what's kind of funny is I never imagined that I would be a football coach or want to play college football. I was always on the path to play college baseball, and I love baseball. Baseball is actually my first love. So it's kind of funny how, after I moved to Iowa, I kind of started to grow into my body a little bit more. And so that was it. That is when I started kind of flipping the switch and started realizing maybe football's the deal for me. But I still played baseball up and through high school. And I was actually, I tried to play in my junior college, do both football and baseball. I just couldn't get it done. I couldn't convince the coaches it was worth it. But no, I still love baseball. I try and, Rapid City's a big baseball town, so I try and get out, and some of the other coaches on staff, I try and get out and watch their kids. Or if we're just hanging out with some of them, I still have my gloves, so I'll get out there and play catch. Or, if I see some of my cousins that play, I still get out there and throw the ball a little bit. So I try and stay involved with it because it was such a big part of me growing up. That makes it, what makes it fun.
Sure, and yeah, you obviously had some success in high school, kind of both ways. You were a first-team All-State, All-Region, All-Conference guy in football, second-team All-State in baseball. What was it kind of like, what are some of those memories, and what was it like to have that kind of success?
Yeah, I guess for me, I just love the nature of competition. If you ask my wife, if we go out in mini golf, I want to win. And, I was blessed to be a good athlete and get out there and have success in both. And, so I have a lot of fond memories, in both sports. And really it comes down to, being, you go from, high school where you're I was all-state in football, and then, go to flip over to baseball, and I was second-team all-state my senior year. So I had a lot of success, and then I go to junior college, and again, I was an all-conference junior college kid. But for me, some of the best memories are just the friendships that I was able to create. But probably one of my fondest is I would have to say, going from high school football where my senior year we were able to win a state championship and go undefeated. And then I roll into Iowa Western Junior College, and I was lucky enough to be part of a national championship team and be undefeated there the following year. So for 2 years, I was really undefeated in football, and that right there was a great memory. And then I got some on the baseball field. I was able to hit some home runs, and so I was a big home run hitter. And so my senior year, I was able to lead the state in home runs, which is a great memory. And I did it by hitting one out in the state quarterfinals at a AAA ball field in Des Moines where the Iowa Cubs play. So, those are just some of the memories that I've created throughout that journey. And, and I'm still able, the head coach there is still the head coach that I played for. So going back, he's asked me a couple times to speak if I'm in town and talk to the guys just about things. So, just trying to leave a lasting image in the short 2 years I was there, because I was really only at Valley High School for 2 years, and a lot of great memories there. It's where I met my wife and my now wife going into our junior year. So, a lot of really good memories from back home that I enjoy. And I try and, get into school. It's kind of funny now. I actually recruit the Metro, the Des Moines Metro. So I'm back in the school more. And so kind of walking through the halls and seeing a bunch of teachers that I know is kind of funny. Just being able to reconnect with them. Going to school so far away from home, in college, I wasn't able to get home as much. And then I essentially jumped right into coaching. So now to be able to go back and see familiar faces still, it's a good time.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned Iowa Western. For people who maybe aren't familiar with the JUCO route, they are a powerhouse in football. Maybe, if not the best program in the country, definitely one of them. Was that part of what kind of drew you to that program?
Yeah, I think for me, I really hit it off with the O-line coach there, who was also the OC, and myself and him really just connected on a personal level, and to this day, he is one of my biggest mentors in this industry. We still talk quite frequently, but for me, they were just starting out. So 2009 was their first football season, so no one really had a whole lot. They were talented, but really what set us apart was that 2012 season where we had a extremely talented team, and we were able to kind of put Iowa Western on a map essentially. And ever since then, it's been absolutely amazing to see. Just going back there, I started my collegiate playing days there, and I started collegiate coaching at that same place. And so for me, that place, in my opinion, is obviously one of the best in the country, if not the best. They're going to be a top 5 program year in and year out. The head coach hasn't changed since I've been there. He's been the only football coach they've had. And he does a heck of a job there. Coach Strohmeyer does, and his staff do really good things. And when you win and you can build really nice facilities, they have a lot of support within Council Bluffs in the Omaha area. So when you do those things, a lot of good things happen, and that's what that place has done. And they've done a great job of putting in the money into it to make it what it is today. And between their football facility and then their indoor facility, it's just amazing to see the growth ever since I left. Every time I go back, because again, I kind of recruit that Western Iowa corridor, and so that's one of my stopping points in this recruiting journey, is being able to go back there and see that. And it's just amazing to see. It just keeps getting better and better, which is awesome to see as a former alumni and seeing that. And it's kind of funny because I always kind of joke with the head coach there whenever I go back of, him kind of softening up a little bit. Back to the playing days when we would practice outside and now they can go inside. I'm just like, I get back and I'm like, wow, coach, you've kind of softened up a little bit, and just, which is great because that's part of change, right? But just some of those old memories that I have from there are just so funny to look back and kind of laugh with them about now. It's a good time.
Yeah, and then after Iowa Western, you played some D1 ball at Utah State. What was that kind of recruiting process like to Utah State, and why was that the decision?
Yeah, I guess for me, it was kind of funny. I got recruited my first year out of Iowa Western, and I said, I just didn't feel at home where I went on a couple visits, and so I made the determining factor to come back for spring ball, and I was planning on going back for the 2013 season as well, and I ended up, that summer Utah State came knocking. With a connection from kind of high school. The tight end coach was at Iowa State when I was at going to Valley, and then he kind of followed me through Iowa Western. And then he came in May, and they started talking, and I ended up going out there on an unofficial visit with my dad. And, I'm a big outdoors guy. I love being outside. I don't like to sit in an office. And so I felt at home, and I felt really that this place was really cool. It was really unique. They were starting to change the culture there a little bit. The head coach was brand new because Coach Anderson had just left to go to Wisconsin at that time, and so they were in the midst of a kind of a staff change, and I was able to meet the O-line coach, Coach Weber, and I really fell in love. He kind of connected on a personal level, and ever since then I just knew that was the place that I was going to be, and so I committed and was out there at the end of July and I kind of redshirted, and then I played my last 3 years there. And so, that recruitment was it was kind of just out of the blue. And I tell everyone, so I was lucky enough to travel to some games as a redshirt, as my redshirt sophomore year, where I wasn't playing. I was able to travel to Utah and USC. Well, in the midst of all this, I'm getting messages from some coaches at other places that are, just checking in, how the summer is, if I was back at Iowa Western. And so I had to tell them, hey, I'm no longer at Iowa Western. So it's kind of, funny how that I just kind of went under the radar, committed, and went there, and the rest is history. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to Coach Anderson. He had built a pretty good program at Utah State. I mean, outside of Boise State, Utah State was one of those programs that was pretty much top 25, close to top 25 every year. Even your first year, I think you won 10 games.
Yep.
So again, what was that kind of success like, being able to go from Iowa Western and then have another really successful?
Yeah, we were they were in the midst of coming off one of their best years in 2012. They had a big-time win against Utah, and really they had some talented players. A lot of people know the guy by the name of Bobby Wagner. He kind of put them on the map. Coach A did a little bit, and and it's funny because Coach A ended up, when I came back as a coach, he was the head coach again. And so he bought a house in Logan, and he determined that was going to be his retirement house. So he never actually sold his house in Logan, which is funny because my Oline coach is the one that lived in it while he was gone. And then his boys moved in when I was going to college, after my O-line coach, the first O-line coach, had left. So, for us, it was, we were always in a dogfight, and, eventually Utah wanted to stop playing us. But we had some fun with BYU. BYU is always one of our rivalries, and, just reading into it, they just dropped us after they announced they were going to go to the Big 12. But part of that is because they don't want to play Utah State because, those teams like to kind of ease up their schedule, and they always thought Utah State was one of those teams, and it's no longer that. And to be part of kind of that transition was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun in my 4 years there. We were good. I was able to go to three bowl games in my time at Utah State, which if you don't know much about Division I football, the bowl game is your gift, and that's the most fun time that you'll probably have outside of winning, a conference championship or something like that. But winning a bowl game and having the opportunity to go to a bowl game because, the gifts and everything that you get that comes with a bowl game is just so rewarding. And so it shows you, all your hard work is paying off, and all that time put together in the weight room and all the hours that you spend up in the film room just together is what made that so much fun.
Yeah, and you obviously had a lot of individual success too. Around 40 starts, it looks like you started every game, those 3 seasons. Honorable mention, All Mountain West, Phil Steele, All Mountain West. What is it kind of like reflecting on the success you had? What does that kind of feel like?
Yeah, I think, for those accolades, I've never been a guy about personal accolades. I've always been about, hey, I want to have success as a team. And that comes with winning and some of those things. But, for me, it was, I was able to start 3 years in a row every game after I redshirted. I was able to play behind an all-conference center who ended up, he's still playing in the NFL today, and I still have a great relationship with him. I still talk to him every so often. So, it was fun. It's fun to look back on those times, and then there's obviously times where you kind of question, what if this happened? So there was some of that too that came, with that. But to be successful, at that level and really have an opportunity, which I know you'll probably hit on after this, is just giving yourself a chance to play at the next level, which is all I wanted. I wanted an opportunity to play at the next level and see how far I could take it. And then, I kind of had a plan in the back of my head of what I wanted to do after. Those things didn't work out. And so I think, looking back, it's awesome. You'll always cherish those moments and being able to look back on those times and laugh with my wife and, one day my kids and, be able to take my kids to a game one time. And that's what I'll always cherish.
Sure. And yeah, after you graduated, you did have an opportunity at a couple, was it rookie camps, training camps?
I had a couple shots at camps. And so for me, obviously I went to Carolina, I went to New Orleans. And then it kind of, after that, I was just, I got to the point where I was just like, I'm done. It kind of dried up. And so I knew right away, early on in my career, that I wanted to get into coaching. And so I said, some people try and keep making it happen. And I said, enough is enough with my body. And I had an opportunity. I had plenty of opportunities. I had 2 other opportunities after those 2 camps that just didn't work out. And just to say that you've had those opportunities, not very many people get to, and I'll cherish those forever. It just shows you, how elite you have to be to get to that level and be able to stay at that level, right? And I've had a number of opportunities to listen to some guys come back and talk just about what it actually takes. And, one of my fondest memories was Bruce Irwin came and talked to our team when I was at Utah State in 2019. He was in town for a work function, and the last thing he left our players with is, but don't forget, you're trying to take food off of my table and my family. And I still think about that all the time because it shows you, just how good you have to be just to maintain that and do what they do on a day-to-day basis. So,
yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it. One injury in the NFL, and you're done. I mean, somebody's going to be there to take your spot.
Absolutely, and that's what it is. It's truly a business at that level, and to see that and just go through it, it was amazing just to be, because you go to Carolina and that camp is completely different than New Orleans, and just see how different to be in a I remember I'm checking in at Carolina, and next thing you know I see Cam Newton, and you're just like, holy cow. But the ability to just see some of these guys, I had a workout with the Rams, and to see Andrew Whitworth and some of those guys just in that locker room, you just know, and that just shows you, just what you have to do to maintain your body for that long and nutritionally and all those things.
Yeah, you kind of earlier you talked about how baseball was originally your first love. So when you were kind of growing up, did you always want to be a coach, and then it kind of just switched from baseball to football?
I didn't know. I didn't know until I got later in my high school days. I moved back to Des Moines, and at that time, my aunt, who was she was a longtime Division I women's basketball coach. She's actually from just south of here, and so I was able to get. And I knew, at a young age, I used to go to her games when she was at UNK as a coach, and I'd be on be right behind the bench, and then I moved away, and she goes off and she goes to all these different places, and then she ends up at Drake University, and that's when I started to think, man, I think I want to get into coaching, And, you know, I know we have who's probably your biggest mentor. You know, I probably have a few different mentors, but she's probably one of my biggest ones. She's the one that I can, you know, if I'm having issues or something, you know, she has the head coach. She has the assistant coach. She's done it all. And so she's someone that I can really lean on, who's always going to be honest and upfront with me, you know. And even getting into coaching, you know, she's like, and she's now out of it and kind of retired now. And so she really, you know, talked me through everything when I first got into this thing, and we still talk to this day about different stuff, you know, different issues that may pop up, or, you know, and it was funny because my wife we were back in Lincoln and we were at their house playing a card game, and she was like, gosh, I can now see why the two of you are related. And we're like, because we're kind of like two peas in a pod when it comes to, you know, the way we think and act. And, you know, coaches are like that. And so, you know, I really started to realize it as I got to Utah State, that this is what I wanted to do forever. And I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of brought this up a little bit, but one thing that I've kind of heard from some different coaches is that if you're a good coach, you're a good coach, right? Like if Nick Saban was going to go coach basketball, all of a sudden he'd probably still be a good coach.
Yep.
Like the X's and O's change, but it's kind of that mentality and just coaching knowledge.
Yep.
Kind of already talked about what initially brought you into coaching. And then when did you kind of decide that, hey, I can see for the next 10, 20 years, this is going to be what my career is?
Yeah, I guess for me it kind of started, you know, as I got older at Utah State, and I took more of a leadership role as a junior and then as a senior, and I started having to understand the playbook where I could teach it, right, and teach it to the young guys, because coaches are always on the road in the summertime or in May, and so we got to get our young guys going. That's when I really it started to click for me, and I just said, I'm going to do this. And it's funny because my second Oline coach, after I graduated and was getting ready for pro day and all that, I was kind of on the side helping still with the guys in the room, running them through drills, because his GA had just took a new job. And so for me, that's really when it started to click that this was going to be it. And he kind of joked, hey, if you don't want to do the NFL stuff, you know, hey, you got a job here with me as a GA. And so I didn't end up, obviously I chased the NFL stuff, and so that's when I just, as soon as that thing kind of dried up and slowed down, I'm like, I'm going to be done, and I'm going to start coaching. And that's when I went back to Iowa Western for 1 year. And then that's kind of when my journey started, was then.
Yeah, what was it kind of like just to be able to transition into coaching and into a familiar spot?
Yeah, I think it takes you time, right? Like, I don't think you're ever, you know, being my true first year as a position coach this last year, I don't think you're ever truly ready. And you're going to, just like, you know, parents, your first child's kind of always a little bit like your guinea pig, right? You're going to learn and now know for year two or child two. So, you know, for me, it was still, you know, there's adjustments I had to make from this last year to next year, looking back on it. And so I don't think you're ever, you know, you can GA but you still have that coach that oversees you, right, and kind of helps you. But until you're on your own doing it, I think you're gonna have a lot of growth your first couple years within the industry.
Sure, and one thing that, you know, you didn't have this, but a lot of younger coaches kind of have, like Coach Gent, for example. He was a quarterback in college, and then he had to learn wide receiver coaching. How much, you know, obviously there's still a learning process, but what is it like to just be able to be familiar, to be an O-lineman, and then be able to coach O-linemen? Yeah,
I think it's, you know, for me, I know so much O-line play. You know, I played it, coached it, I've been coaching it. So for me, my big thing and my challenge to myself is learning the other positions. Because, one day I would hope to be maybe an offensive coordinator, and move up the ladder amongst there. And so for me, it's just learning more, right? Like I know fronts, I know blitzes and things like that. Where I'm not very good is in the secondary, understanding coverages. So I've really challenged myself these last 2-3 years of getting to know that stuff and understand how coverages affect run and things like that. And so for me, that's been the fun part, is that's the new challenge, right? Is learning those things. I got a great grasp of what the up front, and I don't, by no means do I know everything in terms of O-line play, but I do try and branch out and learn those other positions.
And what does that process look like? Is that you kind of going on your own? Are the coaches very willing to kind of talk you through stuff, ask questions?
Yeah, I think, the more questions you ask, the better. I mean, I tell my guys day one, there's, the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask, right? Like, so for me, it's just been asking questions. Why do you do this? I don't understand. And, I do know a little bit about those plays or positions, but I don't know everything. And so it's just, hey, Coach Jen, what do you think of this? Like, you may tell me to fly kites. That's all right. But what do you think? Like, if you do this, and he'll say, yeah, but what if they do that? And it's kind of just that he does that same thing with me. He doesn't know by any means know all about the up front. And so he'll be like, hey, what do you think of that? And I'll be like, well, this hurts that and this does that. And so he'll be like, okay, no worries. So it's a lot of just trial and error amongst yourselves, right? And collaborating between the two of you to get what you want done.
Sure. And you kind of mentioned you started at Iowa Western, then you moved on to Chadron State, and then went back to Utah State. So what was that kind of process like to go, to those two different schools and and then obviously wind up here?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it in this industry, it can be crazy at times, especially as a young coach. You typically move a ton as a young coach until you start to make a name for yourself. So for me, it was just, the opportunity to be able to get closer to family going to Chadron, because, again, my mom went to Chadron State, actually. My mom's family and their farm is about 40 miles south of Chadron. So for me, it was a great opportunity to get back with family that I haven't seen and haven't been able to spend a ton of time with. My little cousin and my uncle lived in town too. So my little cousin, his dad lived outside of town, and so my little cousin spent a year living with me. So that was time that I just had never had with my cousin, which was a great opportunity for me. And then going back, it was an easy decision when Utah State called and said, do you want to come home? And I jumped on that opportunity right away. I mess around with everyone because my wife and I got married July 6th of 2019. And I always tell everyone a week later we had to be back to start getting ready for camp. So we honeymooned in a budget truck, driving all of my wife's stuff back to Utah. And that was her first time ever being away from home, that far from home. We were 16 hours from home. And so for her, there was a lot of tears shed. And she was super excited to obviously branch out and do something new. And I think the hardest thing in this profession as a coach is to be a coach's wife. It's never a fun gig for them. We spend a lot of time doing what we love. And so for her, I think, she is the rock of our house, to say. And she embraces being a coach's wife like nobody can imagine. And so that's been, obviously having a supportive wife and what I want to do has kind of been really, really awesome for me.
For sure, yeah. You kind of mentioned it. There's no way we could do this, right, without having supportive wives supporting families.
Yep.
What initially interested you in South Dakota Mines specifically, and why was this the right fit for you?
So when I was at Utah State as a player, I actually knew Stacy Collins. Stacy Collins was the head coach here for I don't know how many. He was here for 6, 7, 8 years, and he does nothing but speak highly of this place. If it wasn't for Utah State in 2016 to come knocking, he may or may not have still been here. And so for him, it was just validating knowing what Rapid City is and just how, this is a lot of like, Utah just on a smaller scale, is kind of how I explain it to everyone. And so, that kind of drew my interest. And what's kind of crazy is I had just gotten done. I just moved down to Florida. I took a job at UCF, and amongst that shuffle, Heupel left, and so there was a lot of, factors in this move, and I couldn't have been more excited. I love this place. We love Rapid City. We're still half the distance from home that we were in Utah, so that's been awesome. Our families, my family's been able to get up to a ton of games. My wife's family's been out here numerous times, and so that's what's been awesome is it's just a short drive for them, across Iowa and up to South Dakota and over here. So for us, being able to be closer to home and that's what really drew us to, you obviously got the academic success and, for me, and I think for our staff for the most part, just the challenge of kind of flipping the culture and getting this thing on the right track. That's what drew us all to this place. Is just those things because, we love challenges. I mean, we're coaches, we're ex-players, so we love those challenges and just those things.
Yeah, and there's, you kind of mentioned flipping the culture. It's not just, it's also just, becoming a winning program.
Yep.
There's a lot of winners on this coaching staff.
Yep.
Obviously, Coach Floor was maybe one of 15 years with one of the most successful D2 programs in the country. So what are you kind of happy with so far and what you've seen, in your first year, and then what are you kind of looking to do?
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of, we've done a good job of instilling the culture and the kids' buy-in factor, right? I think the kids have bought in to that, and I think that's what really has been the determining factor is just a belief to win. What it takes to win, I think, is still the next step that we, there's still some things that we can get done there. Just understanding what it takes to win and how, how to play with leads and some of those things that, at times last year we maybe didn't do the best at because they're just unfamiliar with those situations. Maybe they haven't been in a ton of those situations. So now that we're in that, I think that's going to be the biggest growth for this team and this crew coming up is we got a lot of returners, and that's really exciting as a coach. You sit there and you look at how many guys we have coming back that played meaningful snaps a year ago. I think that's what's the most exciting thing is there's going to be some, great things to happen, and they just got to keep believing and go out there and get it done. And we're starting to see more the leadership qualities and more guys stepping up to the plate, doing more things on their own and doing a lot of the things that it's going to take to get that thing back to being a winning culture.
Sure, Oline's a little bit different, at least to the average person who isn't super familiar with football, where it's pretty easy to tell if a quarterback play is improving. It's pretty easy to tell if a running back is improving. What did last year look like? What are some of the positives and negatives?
Yeah.
And what does that growth look like for this
year? I think they took a big step forward. I know I came in and changed a couple things and every coach is different, right? And you can't be someone you're not in this industry. And so for our guys, they took a big step forward. They did. I challenged them to do, hey, be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so just doing new things, being open to new opportunities and different things that that I was going to change. And they ran with it, and they did a great job. We have a lot of good older guys that have really bought in and done that. And so for us, it's just continuing to improve on those and prove their worth in this league. This is a very good league. This last year wasn't my first year in this league. I've been in this league before, and so I know what this place can be, and those guys are doing that. They're making those changes, and they're doing a fantastic job. And I think, it doesn't always show. Like you said, it's easy to see the growth, but there has been a lot of growth. Just talking to some, maybe a parent or somebody that's been a bystander, just come to watch games, just hearing them validate that by saying, hey, this team, this Oline is getting better, and just some of those things makes you, as a coach, know you're on the right track.
Sure. That just about wraps us up. Season's coming close, obviously. You start spring or summer practice next week. First game September 1st. Home game September 10th. What are you most looking forward to? Going into summer and then the season?
I think we're just excited about the season. The guys that we have coming back, this team, we're just excited to see the growth from year 1 or year 2 really to year 3. I kind of say COVID year was kind of, playing 4 games. That was great for them. But going into this year 2, really year 2.5, we'll call it, with this staff, I think we'll see a lot of growth. And that's what I think we're just excited for, is just those opportunities and these kids to come in and compete their tails off and do all that fun stuff.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today, Austin.
Thanks.
Good luck this season. I'm Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert, signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Hard Rocker Huddle with host Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert. Follow on Apple and Spotify.